So, today we are going to be talking about your self concept. We're just going to get right into it. What is your self concept? Your self concept is pretty self explanatory. It's the concept of you in your head. So, your self concept dictates like a lot of stuff. It dictates how you act, how you feel, how you react to certain things that may happen to you, whether consciously or subconsciously. Your self concept basically is your running script, if you will, for how you interface with the world and how you react to stimuli in the world. So, I've come to find through my own personal experience and through talking to a lot of other people that your self concept very often isn't updated. When you think of your sense of self, when you think of your self concept, you're usually thinking of a version of yourself from like a couple of years ago, maybe at best a couple months ago, but no one really ever considers who they currently are in the present moment. You're thinking of the things you did before, you're thinking of who you were before, you're thinking of how you've always done stuff, but you're not really ever looking at what serves you then and looking at what serves you now and really actively deciding if everything that is embodying in your self-concept should still be there. And I think that's a really big problem because we're human beings. We change on a regular basis. We change every day, damn near. And if you're running an old self-concept from like over a decade ago or a couple years ago or even a couple months ago, that can be really damaging because it means that the present version of you is not currently the most applicable to the situation, if you know what I'm really saying. It's like, you've done, let's just say you've done certain stuff for a certain way for a certain amount of time because that's just how you've always done it. It gets the job done, blah, 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 blah. But there's always a more efficient way to do things. And there's always a different version of you that could be better, that could be more applicable to the current situation you're in. And if you're not willing to go into your own psyche and look at what is still old and what is still outdated and what's not serving you, you're essentially, I don't know, in computer terms, if you know anything about computers, you know what RAM is. The RAM is the memory, how much you're using in your computer, how much operating power or whatever you have to be able to hold these applications up while you're using them. If you're using Chrome and a video editor and you have YouTube in the background, you have music, and you're playing a game, you have a bunch of RAM. Basically, by cleaning up your self-concept, who you are now, versus what's no longer serving you, you're essentially closing out these apps. Let's just use a web browser. Forget the RAM thing. Let's just say your self-concept is Chrome. Let's say you have a billion tabs open. You've got like 100 tabs open. All of these are your old self-concepts. And if you're not actively going in here and deciding which of these self-concepts you're still using, which of these tabs you're still using, and which of these are completely irrelevant from some random scroll thought you had an hour ago, a random subconscious thing or conscious thing that you used to do from 10 years ago, you get the point. If you're just hogging all the RAM using these tabs based off of the old self-concept, there's so much energy that is not being able to get processed and used in the current time where you are, the current you that you are. So it's very, very important to really look at your life, analyze the path you've been on, where you currently are, and where you want to go so that you can make sure that you have enough free energy to use for your new self-concept that you're going to use to interface with the world. And we have a bunch of self-concepts. I don't know, we'll just throw some random examples out there. I don't like to ice skate. Random. I don't like this vegetable. I don't like this car. Blah, 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 blah. I like summer over winter. And it's crazy because even though those things may not necessarily be true anymore, and you may not even agree with them anymore, you still stick to them because they make up the DNA, supposedly, of who you are, and you don't doubt it, you don't really challenge it. And I think that we should. It's very, very important to really look at who you are. I'll just give a perfect example. For me, I used to love winter, but I don't really like winter anymore. I'm much more of a fall, spring person. Am I going to hold on to me liking winter because that's who I was? I didn't like Brussels sprouts, but I like them now because I tried them. I didn't like radishes, but I like them now because I tried them. I used to like white rice over brown rice, but now I'm a brown rice kind of person. You see what I mean? Simple stuff, not really life-changing in the grand scheme of things, but you'd be surprised how many of those deeper subconscious self-concepts we have that are preventing us from really evolving and growing in our lives. Let's say it's a little bit bigger. Let's say, I don't know, what's something that's really going to change your life? Let's say you're, I don't know, let's just say you label yourself as an introvert. Hell, I did the same thing. I said I was an introverted individual, that I didn't really like going out and doing things. And that's still true to an extent, but I realized that it wasn't necessarily me not being social or me being an introvert or me just liking to be by myself. It was more the fact that the energy I was giving to certain individuals made me feel like I didn't like going out, made me feel like I didn't like doing stuff, made me feel like that's who I was because I was giving that attention and energy to the wrong people. My self-concept was based off of bad data brought to me by bad individuals. So now you're kind of starting to see what I mean. If your self-concept hasn't been updated with new data, you're going to keep running the same script, even though new data could input that would very well have you change your self-concept and have you realize that you are a very different person than you thought you were. Anyway, like I said, we're just kind of going into this. There's no script for this. But anyway, the point is you need to be manually updating your self-concept on a regular basis. Because if you're not, you're going to continue to run these old scripts, these old patterns that very well may not even be you anymore, that very well could be preventing you from new, different opportunities in your life. Because that's what we're here to do at the end of the day. We're here to experience new things, to evolve, to constantly be changing and refreshing who we are, not to stay the same person from birth until death. That's boring. That's not the point of any of this. We're continuously evolving through this life experience, this life journey that we have, and you manually updating your self-concept is a part of that process. It's not something that happens in the background. It's not something that automatically gets done. If you aren't manually going in here, clearing out the old, inputting the new, updating the data of your new experiences and making sure that your self-concept is updated to who you are now, you're going to be running old programs, old script, and you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff because you won't even realize what's going on in the background. You know, you have software, essentially. Let's just say your software, like say we're using the Chrome analogy, your software, and even, you know, software needs to get updated. You can use the old version. If a new version of Windows comes out, let's say you're on Windows 10, you know, let's say everyone's on Windows 10, blah, 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 but you're still using like Windows 7 or like Windows XP or something. Sure, it works, but is it really the most effective version of you that you can be? We're trying to be the most effective versions of ourselves. We're trying to not burn through all our energy on unnecessary things. We're trying to update everything in our self-program to be the most operable so that we can engage in any situation with efficiency and effectivity. But if you're not running the most up-to-date software, if you're not running the most up-to-date version of yourself, with all the gunk, with all the blue, with all the old stuff gone, you're just going to be slowing yourself down. So, you know, it's basically like this. Your self-concept of who you are, what you want out of life, what the trajectory is that you were trying to go on needs to be updated manually by you 24/7. I'm not saying you need to do this every single day. That's monotonous. But I would say, I don't know, every couple of months, you kind of need to check in on yourself and say, what is still me currently and what am I holding on to that doesn't need to be here anymore? You got to check that stuff. You have to make sure that what you're doing is for you. Your self-concept should not be made up of other people's data. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, it's cool to take advice from people. It's cool to take inspiration from people. There's no problem with looking at what someone else has done and saying, cool, I want to add that to my own personal toolkit. But you should not be sitting here taking a one-to-one copy of someone else's life and trying to layer it over to yourself. You know, you can have inspiration. You can want the same thing as someone else. You can maybe even want to do a similar thing. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you came here on earth to do. You can't just copy someone else's mold. Trust me, I tried it. It did not work. You have to be you. It's called a self-concept, not an our concept. It's based off of you. There's no problem taking inspiration. No problem looking at someone else and saying, oh, cool. It's like, I don't know, like interior design. Like, yeah, sure. You could look at someone else's house and be like, oh, yeah, I want to copy this and I want to copy that. But at the end of the day, it's still your house. Very rarely are you just going to copy someone's complete furniture, their complete layout, because that's not you, that's them. You can take an inspiration from it, sure, but you're still going to put your own flair. Maybe you want red curtains instead of blue. Maybe you want a square table instead of a circle table. You know, you still have to be you at the end of the day. That's the point of updating your self-concept to match your taste, to match your reality, because that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're curating our reality. If you're not actively, consciously curating your reality, your self-concept, you're going to you're going to fall behind. You're going to miss out on stuff. You're not going to be the most accurate version of you that you can be. And why would you not want to be the most accurate version of you? Because the most accurate version of you is the most aware version of you. And the most aware version of you knows who they are. And if you know who you are, you know where to go. You know where you've been. You know what to do at all times. So yeah, that's it for this video. I didn't want to keep this too long. I'm trying to make sure these videos aren't like an hour and a half like they usually are. But yeah, if you like this video, tell me in the comments. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's also cool. But I love the engagement. I wanted to get this one out here because I thought it was a kind of interesting thing, because I'm going through this right now where, I've looked at stuff in my life where I was like, okay, this is who, Nandian is. But I've looked recently and I'm like, that's not who Nandian is. That hasn't been Nandian for a very long time. So I feel like if I'm going through it, someone else surely out there is going through it. And if you're not updating your self-concept, you really probably should get on top of it. Unless you like running Windows XP in a Windows 10 world, go for it. But, for most people, I'm sure you want the most accurate you can be. So that's it for this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and see you later. Bye.